Why did you feel it was so important to end egg and sperm donor anonymity?
Well, I'd start from a different point, but it was to answer your question, and that would be to ask why anybody would think that it was right to start to build a family that was based on deception about the child's origins. If we think that donor conception is an acceptable and respectable way of building a family, then why would we behave in a way that suggested that it was somehow unacceptable and should be kept secret from people?
And where did this thought of yours come from originally?
It came, I think, from two sources. One, professionally as a social worker since 1971, and more recently than that, as the father of two adopted children. And in the UK, it's been convention since the mid-1970s to, first of all, tell adopted children that they were actually adopted and not try to pretend that they were the biological children of the couple who were raising them. And secondly, since from the age of 18, that they were given the right to access their birth records. People like myself thought, well, what's the difference between adopted children when they reach the age of 18 and donor-conceived people who might well have similar interest in learning where they'd actually come from? And the protection of donor anonymity actually stopped donor-conceived people having those same rights and, if you like, the rights that the rest of us have if we assume that the parents who brought us up are actually our genetic parents and there's not some secret in the cupboard that we haven't been told about.
And have you had much support from, let's say, parents or the children themselves? Have any of them ever come to you?
Indeed. I mean, in the UK, of course, when the practice, as is the case pretty well everywhere, was that medically assisted donor conception was always practiced on the grounds of both secrecy and donor anonymity. And the campaigns to change that started during the 1980s, and I was part of a group of social workers who were very much involved in that from within the UK. And we were actually joined by parents of donor-conceived children, and not so much donor-conceived children, but donor-conceived adults who had found out or had been told that they were donor-conceived but weren't able to get information about their donors. And there was quite a wide range of individuals and groupings who supported this, and eventually the government came on side and the law was changed in the UK in 2005, so that now any donor-conceived anybody conceived through donor conception since 2005 does have the right to access information, including the identity of their donor, when they reach the age of 18.
So this came into being in 2005 in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
How many other countries, not by number, but are we talking widespread, that a lot of countries don't adopt this?
Most countries don't adopt this. In most countries of the world, donor conception is still practiced as it was in the UK prior to 2005, which means that donor-conceived people would not be able to find out the identity of their donor. So it's a very sort of localised, if you like. Essentially, it's the UK, Australia, the various states in Australia, New Zealand, and a number of European countries that allow donor-conceived people to find out the identity of their donor.
And the US?
Not the US, although the state of Washington has introduced legislation that would allow a donor-conceived person to discover the identity of their donor so long as the donor didn't veto that. But that is the only state in the United States that has any legislation on this at all, because that's something that would be legislated for at state level rather than at federal level.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.